Before we go any further, if you care about preserving hard-won survival knowledge and the overlooked details of military history, subscribe to this channel and share it with someone who takes history seriously. What you're about to hear isn't trivia. It's a small, brutal truth from the coldest battlefields on Earth, where survival often came down to ordinary items used in extraordinary ways. In freezing war zones, a simple bar of soap quietly saved lives, not through cleanliness alone, but through chemistry, discipline and fieldcraft that modern audiences rarely hear discussed. Why cold kills faster than bullets in prolonged winter campaigns. Historians often focus on tactics and weapons, but cold has always been one of the most efficient killers in war. During World War II and the Korean War, frostbite, trenchfoot, infected wounds, and hypothermia disabled or killed enormous numbers of soldiers long before enemy contact. In prolonged winter conditions, moisture is the enemy. Sweat trapped in clothing freezes. Damp boots turn feet into deadweight. Small skin injuries become lethal infections. Soap became a tool to control moisture, bacteria and heat loss in environments where medicine and electricity were limited or non-existent. How soap functioned as a survival tool rather than a hygiene luxury. Military soap issued to soldiers was not about comfort. It was a survival tool. Soap removed oils, dirt and bacteria that caused infections in cuts, blisters and frostbitten skin. In freezing conditions, infection was often deadlier than the initial injury. Soldiers were trained to wash feet, groin, armpits and hands whenever water was available, even when it meant breaking ice. Clean skin dried faster, reducing prolonged dampness that led to trenchfoot and frostbite. This wasn't about smelling clean. It was about keeping tissue alive. You know, clean skin actually helped retain body heat in extreme cold. Dirty skin, well, it traps moisture, and moisture, as it turns out, pulls heat from the body. Soap allowed soldiers to remove sweat residue that continued to draw heat even after they'd stopped moving around. Veterans' accounts talk about washing quickly, drying off thoroughly, and then immediately layering clothing to trap warmth. This simple routine, believe it or not, helped regulate body temperature during those long night watches. In survival terms, soap really acted as a heat preservation aid. Clean, dry skin reduced evaporative cooling, which was a silent killer in those sub-zero environments. Now, when it came to foot care, soap was used to prevent foot rot and even amputations. Foot injuries could cripple entire armies. Soldiers marched, stood guard, and even slept in the same boots for days or weeks on end. So, whenever boots came off, soap was used to wash feet. After cleaning, feet were dried aggressively and sometimes dusted with powder or wrapped in dry cloth. This reduced fungal growth and bacterial infections that could lead to gangrene. During the Korean War, medics really emphasized foot hygiene as a frontline medical priority because untreated foot damage often meant evacuation or amputation. A bar of soap, after all, was lighter than most medical supplies and far more available. Soap wasn't just for hygiene, it doubled as a fieldcraft tool, especially in the cold. For instance, soldiers rubbed soap on rifle bolts and zippers to prevent freezing. A thin film of soap reduced friction and stopped ice from binding metal parts. It was also used to seal small fabric tears temporarily by stiffening the fibres once it dried. In emergencies, shavings were mixed with water to mark icy terrain or warn others of hazards. And, none of this was in the training manuals. It was learned the hard way and passed from soldier to soldier. Eventually, armies caught on and institutionalized soap as a survival necessity. Military logistics understood its value, so soap was included in rations and supply drops, even when food was running low. Organizations like the International Red Cross prioritized hygiene supplies in winter aid packages because disease and infection killed more soldiers than direct combat during those long, cold deployments. Soap was cheap, lightweight, and effective. Its absence was felt immediately. Units without soap reported higher sick rates within just a few weeks. So, how can modern survivalists apply this, often forgotten lesson today? Well, this knowledge is still relevant. In cold weather survival, soap belongs in your kit right alongside your fire-starting tools. When you're winter camping, wash sweat-prone areas before sleeping, dry thoroughly, and change into dry layers to preserve heat. If you're working outdoors in cold conditions, clean and dry your feet daily, even if it seems unnecessary. Use soap to prevent chafing that can turn into infection when medical care is far away. Always carry a basic unscented bar. Avoid liquid soaps, they freeze or leak. The principle really remains unchanged from those wartime trenches. Control moisture, control bacteria, and you extend your survival time. It's worth remembering that survival is rarely about dramatic heroics. It's about discipline in small, repeatable actions. Soap kept soldiers alive because it addressed the quiet killers of cold war zones: moisture, infection, and heat loss. The men who survived brutal winters weren't always the strongest or the best armed. They were the ones who respected these details and acted on them daily, even when they were exhausted and under fire. If you value these overlooked lessons and want more serious research-driven survival history, subscribe to the Legacy of Survival channel, share this episode with a fellow historian or outdoorsman, and help keep these lessons alive. The past still has work to do.